Yugioh Chess. How to play. The rules are the same as regular chess except for these changes. For a refresher of those rules, check out this video. Each player rolls a 20-sided die, and the high roll goes first. Reroll on a tie. Before play begins, whoever is going second rolls 2 8-sided dice 5 times. If they do not roll an 8 at least once, then they immediately lose the game. During the game, on your turn, after you move, you and your opponent each roll a 10-sided die and compare the numbers. If you rolled a 9 and your opponent rolled a 0, then you instantly win the game. If your roll is equal to or greater than 5 times your opponent's roll, or if they rolled a 0 and you rolled a 1 through 8, then promote any one of your pawns to a queen. If you do not have any pawns on the board, then you may add a queen to any of your vacant pawn starting squares. Queens promoted or placed in this way are not taken from the pool of pieces your opponent has captured. If your roll is equal to or greater than 4 times your opponent's roll, then your opponent must skip their next turn and you move again. If your opponent is in check when their turn is skipped, then you win the game. If your roll is equal to or greater than 3 times your opponent's roll, then you may add any piece your opponent has already captured to any starting location for that piece type on your side of the board. Bishops are allowed to be on the same color. If your roll is greater than your opponent's but less than 3 times greater, then you may add any pawn piece your opponent has already captured to any vacant location on your second row. Pawns placed in this way are still allowed their double-step move option, and en passant is allowed like normal. If your rolls are equal, then nothing happens. If your roll is less than your opponent's, then you pick any piece of theirs that you have captured and return it to any of your opponent's vacant starting squares of the same piece type. Only one effect maximum can happen after each roll, and it must be the one with the highest value. If it is impossible to perform an effect, then that effect is skipped and nothing happens. If the roll calculation is a fraction, round down. The perspective of the end of the turn rolling effect is always from the player who just performed a move. You must perform the action even if you don't want to. Check and checkmate are only calculated after rolling. When you checkmate your opponent, you each roll a 12-sided die. If they roll a 12 and you roll a 1, then they win the game instead of you. If not, then you win.